All right, the next step is to validate our markup and make sure it's valid and follows the rules that all browsers expect. So on Google, search for HTML validator. Here's the first website, validator.w3.org. This is the official validator for HTML markup. So if our website is live on our internet, we can paste its URL here. Alternatively, we can upload a file or paste our HTML markup on the third tab. So I'm going to paste our HTML markup and then validate the page. All right, take a look. There are a few errors we need to fix. The first error says the element header must not appear as a descendant of the footer element. So the reason we're getting this error is because in our footer, we have these collapsible sections. Now earlier, when we implemented the collapsible component, we used the header element to define this section. Now the HTML validator is saying that inside a footer, we cannot have a header element. It doesn't make sense, right? So back to our markup, here's our footer element. In this footer, we have a few collapsible sections. Now in this section, we have a header element, but it doesn't make sense to have a header inside a footer, right? So we have to rename this to a div. So we right click here and then go to rename symbol. The shortcut is F2. So we're going to rename this to a div. Good. Now I'm going to pause the video and make the same change to other header elements in the footer. Now back to the validation result, we also have a warning saying one of our section doesn't have a heading. That is the section with the class of footer brand. So once again, we have this section in our footer, but this section doesn't have a heading. So here's the section with the class of footer brand. Once again, we're going to replace this with a div. Now here's the interesting part. Because in our CSS, we are not relying on the type of our elements, these changes are not going to break our styles. So our website is as beautiful as before. Now let's go back to the HTML validation service and paste our new markup here. Check. Fantastic. Now similarly, we should validate our CSS code. So we search for CSS validator. Here's the first one, jigsaw.w3.org. The same interface. So I'm going to go to direct input and paste our CSS code to validate it. All right, we have two errors on these lines. The validator cannot parse the value we have used. Here's the value we have assigned to the padding bottom property. We're using the calculate function along with these custom properties. And unfortunately, at the time of recording this video, the official CSS validator does not support this. So back to this page, if you look further down, you can see all these warnings complaining about our custom properties or variables. So at this point, our CSS code is valid. So let's move on to the next step.